yeah, just looking at that, you should definitely trust yourself more because your analysis is fucking it's up there. You know what I mean? I think honestly, out of all of the traders that we have at ODC, I think your analysis is by far the best. You know what I mean? And I feel like that you should definitely trust yourself more.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Uh, I was gonna say like one of the reasons I think my analysis is so good is because I got so sick of losing and not understanding why. And then I found ICT right around that same time as I was making the transition into like trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And then I decided that in my mind, I was like, I want to be one of the best analysts in the world. I want to be able to analyze any market, any time frame, any time of day. I want to be able to just bang it out, right? And like I've proven to them that to myself over time. Like I've literally traded the same concepts on crypto, on options trades, on stocks, on indices, and on currencies. Like there's I don't know, and it's just I think it has a lot to do with just I don't trust myself generally, and I've been really, really, really working on that.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to kind of what we were talking about last week with we were kind of talking at you a lot. I just kind of wanted to regroup and like see what you kind of took from last week and tried to like implement into your trading or something, or like if anything this last week.
Oh, dude, that conversation after I went to work and like the people that I work with don't really speak English, so like I pretty much have like 9 hours of thinking to myself, right?
Mm.
And so I thought a lot about that conversation, and what I ended up taking away from it was that I just had too much focus on my trading, and I was a very one-dimensional person because all I was doing was like focus on my trading. Like, what are you doing? Trading and sleeping, and like that's not even good for your trading. You know what I mean? Like that's good to study and observe and like learn about the market, but to actually to develop the analytical skills, but to actually trade the market, you need to like have other stuff going for you.
Yeah.
And so I've really decided to just double down on really getting into fitness. Like I started rucking. I've been doing calisthenics off and on for a while, but I'm really trying to pay attention to my nutrition and like prioritize sleep number one, like and make my recovery more important. And like so people are like, oh, what are you into right now? It's like sleep, dude. Like understanding my sleep, understanding just how to get myself into a state of peak performance, and then using the avenue of like fitness and fitness goals to like get me there. So like last week I didn't really focus on trading too much. I was just like really focused on my training. And then you saw the only trade I took, it was just I said it before I went to bed. Like that's so huge for me because it means that I was able to just let go. You know what I mean? I accounted for the risks to make sure that I could sleep. Like I wasn't in with 2% risk going to bed. You know what I mean? It was a small risk, just testing things out and like building my mental game and working on my trading skills and building discipline off the charts and just I don't know, building a more well balanced lifestyle. I really like doubled down on that, and that's what I took away from our conversation. And honestly, I feel so much happier and better.
Yeah, no, that's huge. You know what I mean? Because your physical health will have innumerable benefits for your mental health, right? And that will be, and your mental health is what allows you to succeed or fail as a trader, right? Because you can know all the concepts, you can know how to analyze the market, you can know when to get in, when to get out. But if you're not right up there, if you're not able to physically execute on the information that you have, then you're never going to be successful. And I think what you said was perfect. Like prioritizing your sleep, prioritizing your fitness, and your nutrition. Like that's huge. You know what I mean? Because yeah, no, yeah, that's just huge. And I want to highlight something that you said earlier. I think it was last night when we were talking in the Discord about like if you were mentoring a trader who was going through your issue, like you would tell them to you would tell them to like look at it from this perspective. So like, I wanted to ask you, what if if a trader that you were mentoring, came to you with the exact same problems that you were going through, what would you tell them?
I can tell you right away because I already did it to myself. Number one, if you're getting less than 6 hours of sleep, you don't get to trade. Like point blank, period. For me, right? For me, my cognitive functioning, like there is a steep drop off between like sub 6 hours and over 6 hours. So it's like if you're coming to the charts with less than 6 hours of sleep, you're already coming to the charts at best in a B mental game state, and at worst C, maybe even F, and you don't even know it, right? You don't even have the cognitive functions to be like, hey, I'm not at my best, and even if I'm not at my good, I might be at my worst. Like you don't even have the cognitive functions to understand that. So I would put a minimum sleep requirement based on how much they need to sleep, right? Actually need to sleep, not how much your schedule offers, but how much you actually need to sleep. I'm, tracking all my steps, tracking my sleep. I would make sure that they were sleeping correctly. And then two, I was trading without like a strategy or a playbook. Like I had an idea of things, like it's the same stuff that I was using on the lower time frames, but I don't have written rules for it. So boom, again, you're benched and you need to come back, and you can trade when you build your playbook. If you only build one play over the weekend, guess what? That means next week you're only trading one play. That's it. So if you really want to be able to trade everything that you understand, then you got to get to work over the weekend and put the all the plays together, get everything down. Everything, I already have the templates, so it's just like a matter of filling out the steps for the templates. It's like boom. So you need to be making sure you get sleep. You need to be making sure you have your playbook, and then you can come back and you should be ready and prepared to trade at the charts. But like if I was like mentoring a trader, like dude, it would be like almost like a rough tutelage, because there are such expectations, and I'm not going to ask them to do things that I wouldn't do myself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm putting myself through these phases of like literally mentoring and kind of being the hard mentor that I never had, because I feel like a lot of people that are successful, they end up having a mentor that calls them out on their stuff. And I've never really had that, you know what I mean? So I have to be that person for myself. And so that's what I would ask of my traders. So it'd be like minimum, you have to hit your sleep requirements. If you don't get to trade. Oh well. And that's how important sleep is to your performance, not just in trading, but in your whole life. Like it's easier to maintain relationships when you sleep. It's just easier, right? So it's just like sleep, playbook. Okay, now we're moving. That's how a trader in my position, how I'm treating myself. That's what I'm doing going into next week.
Yeah, that's pretty big, because like, especially if you don't get more than 6 hours, then you don't trade at all. Like, imagine if trading is your full time and that's what you need to make money. You know what I mean? And if you tell somebody that like, oh, you didn't get 6 hours, you can't trade. You know what I mean? You're missing out on an opportunity for you to make money for your livelihood, or to make rent, to buy food.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like, somebody's gonna prioritize that shit real quick. So that's yeah, that's a really good rule. And going back into kind of like moving off of that. So what is your kind of your weekend processes? Like, what do you do on your weekends to kind of prepare for the week coming up?
I like to. I'm working on my 3-step process, where it's like kind of like, because I work Fridays and Saturdays pretty much all day. It really takes a lot of time away from being able to prep for the week. And then, we're doing these podcasts in the morning, and I'm like still training in the morning. So it's like my weekend process is more just consisting right now of just making sure my mental game is in check, and then just kind of going through I have primary, secondary, and tertiary markets, right? So my primary markets are EU and GU. So I make sure I go through the DXY, EU, and GU from the time frame of at least the weekly down to the daily, down to the H4, down to the H1. And then I kind of write out a summary of like what my expectations are going to be. And that's pretty much it. And then if I can, if I have time and the mental capacity for it, then I'll go through the secondary markets and then maybe even the tertiary markets to see where the best setups are going to be, and just kind of like frame up ideas and then type them out, and then just kind of like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's interesting. That you have primary, secondary, and tertiary markets. So like, how did you? This is kind of a twofold question. So, like, how did you come up with which ones would be primary, secondary, and tertiary? Which I have a decent idea of, like, probably how you came to that conclusion. But, secondly, like, would you say, like, how many trades could you expect per month on a primary market versus a secondary market versus a tertiary market?
Okay.
Or setups per month, maybe not trades, but like setups.
Yeah. So the way that I chose my markets was just because ICT had us learn on pretty much either EU or GU, pretty much the choices. And so I'm really just really comfortable with those markets. And their correlation to the DXY, especially with EU, it's like almost a directly inverse correlation, right? And it just makes it really easy to add like a layer of confluence to my trades. So essentially all of my markets are based on the majors because of that DXY influence. I chose secondary markets of AUD USD and NZD USD because that allows me to still use correlation in my analysis with smart money divergence, smart money technique divergence, SMTDV. And I use that very heavily on EU and GU. So I like to use that on AU and NU. And then my tertiary markets are just USD CAD and USD JPY. Their correlation to the DXY is a little bit looser, so I don't rely on them as much. And I also am not sure of what markets I would want to use for the confluences for that divergence, that SMT divergence. So I kind of just like, since I don't trust them as much because I don't have that correlation effect, they're just kind of on the back burner. As far as how many setups I can expect per week per market, probably like 1 to 2, which between 7 markets, gives you a lot of opportunities. So I realized like my goal isn't to take a bunch of setups in the week. My goal is to be able to choose the setup that I really want to take, and then hopefully start getting into a level where I'm hitting it with a bit of a larger risk size of like more like 1 to 2%, and think of it as swing trading where I'm limiting myself to maybe only 2 or 3 trades in a week. Like I really feel like that's where my appetite is as far as my mental game of how many trades I want to mentally have to handle throughout the week. So yeah, it's just like choosing 2 or 3 setups, but I could probably find anywhere from 5 to 10 opportunities per week if I really push on the gas, and also depending upon the market condition.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I thought you were gonna say that you would find more opportunities on your primary markets versus your secondary markets or your tertiary markets, but though I guess the way you kind of break it down is like you're more comfortable with your primary, you're a little less comfortable with your secondary, and you're even less comfortable with your tertiary. Right. So that's actually very interesting way to break it down. That's actually not what I thought it was going to be at all. But as long as that works for you, like who the fuck am I to tell you to change it? You know what I mean? Like that's keep doing that shit.
Yeah, like because my approach isn't so hard mathematically based, it's very soft based, right? It's very structural and I feel like flowy based, and it just kind of is a reflection of the kind of person I am, where I like to just things that are easiest is just how I flow better, right? I like to do hard things are fun, but like what just makes the most sense to me is typically the path that I'm going to take. Versus like the hard data says this. Like the hard data says I could have hit a 26R trade on UJ last week.
Yeah,
I didn't, right? Like it's just all about understanding like how I feel, the kind of trades that I like, and the kind of trades like I honestly break down like in my journal like how did this trade make me feel, to kind of filter out what are actually my best setups, because my best setup is a combination of the technicals plus my mindset. So if I can find a really good setup that makes me feel like it's an easy way to go, that's going to be probably my best setup versus the setup that I know maybe is a 76% strike rate and it hits an average of 3.2R.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And I'm also curious, like, because you only mentioned Forex pairs, so I'm curious, because I know in the past you've traded indices, and I'm not sure your stance on equities. You probably don't trade too many equities, but I'm curious why why or why not you don't really look at indices?
I traded Nasdaq between Nasdaq and Dow, I traded the indices for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I just never really I could get really into reading the tape and under like getting into the flow of the market, but like for whatever reason, because I was getting into that kind of state, I found a lot of difficulty in trying to put a mechanical model onto that market or into those markets, right? And so while I could analyze all day long, like I really struggled trading those markets. And so I just switched back to currencies because that's where I started it all, like back with Falcon, back when they were Falcon Trading Guidance in 2019 or 2018, right? They taught me on currencies. So ICT likes to say like I bloom where I'm planted. And I was planted on currencies and I just feel really comfortable. As far as equities go, I analyze them a bit. Sometimes I trade them a little bit, but because of the nature of the close and the open, like having such a long duration and all those gaps, like it just makes me feel like real weird about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Forex is so smooth. The NASDAQ, especially the micro contracts, butter, bro. Even in like Asia, sometimes they'll just flow like butter, whereas you're getting like a lot of stagnation with the Dow and the S&P. Like they look all terrible, but like the way that the candles are painted on like NASDAQ and on the currency pairs, the majors, I don't know, it just looks better and it makes me feel more at ease. So I just like the better candles.
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes a lot of sense. Like I feel the exact same way about equities because like unless I'm trading options, like I can't trade equities. Like it doesn't like feel right. And I guess that it's kind of going back to what you said about like you bloom where you're planted. That like I learned on Forex back in like 2018 with Naveen, I forget his last name, but we all took Naveen's course. That was literally for our first introduction to Forex. And like it's currencies, you know what I mean? Currency pairs, 24/5 market where it, like you're saying, it's really smooth. If there is a gap, how frequently do you see gaps in a Forex market, even if it's like from Friday to Monday or Friday to Sunday, you know what I mean? It's very rare that there will be large gaps and stuff like that, which will like throw off your analysis. Whereas in equities, you'll see that shit every day, damn near every day. You know what I mean? Like it's not this. It shit'll close at like 100 and then it'll open at like 115. Like, well, not 115. That's kind of crazy, but like it'll open at like 102 or something. You know what I mean? Like it's a crazy discrepancy that you're not gonna really see in Forex. So like I 100% agree with like you can't really put mechanical rules around that because I feel like with equities and in my personal opinion, like it's much more dependent on the fundamentals rather than the technicals. Like it's much harder to like technically and mechanically create a strategy around equities as opposed to Forex. You know what I mean? Forex, you can literally just or even commodities, I would say, because I like gold a lot. Gold. I've had so many gold trades that's making me a lot of money, so I love me some gold. But like commodities and like and currencies are much easier to like manage and create a strategy around as opposed to even indices to a degree and definitely equities. So I would definitely agree with you there.
Let me ask you this. How did you end up with choosing NZD as part of your watch list? That's a very interesting pair.
NZD CAD?
Yeah.
So actually, I used to, I can actually show my old watch list. And my old watch list was like everything. Like let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 pairs. Like every morning I got on the charts, I would literally go down through 17 pairs. Like my first 30 minutes on the chart were just going through 17 different pairs, seeing if there is any divergence that I might be able to take advantage of that day. And then I would mark it, and maybe let's say there's 5. and then I'm only looking at those 5 pairs for the rest of the day, and blah 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 blah, right? So during that whole period, the pairs that I saw the most success with are the ones that I now focus on my in my watch list. So those are EU, GU, NZD CAD, and NZD USD. So NZD CAD, I've found has made a lot of it. It's very conducive to divergence. Like, it respects it very often. So I can it works a lot with my strategy, I've seen. So yeah, that's why I have NZD CAD in there, and it's definitely. You're not the first person to ask me about that. I'm pretty sure Chuck has asked me about that too, because it's not really a pair that you would. It's not a major. You know what I mean? It's not a pair that you would expect a lot of people to trade, but it makes me money. So yeah, that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I knew yours was probably gonna be something like technically based. You're like, yeah, dude, because it works with my strategy. I guess
yeah, and I've learned that gold is a similar way. Like, gold, it doesn't. There's not as many divergent setups, but when gold moves, that shit moves. So like, so that it's interesting that like every single pair, and that's what I really like about like the financial markets, is like every single pair or commodity or equity or index is like unique. Like, they don't all move the exact same way. Like, they all have their positives and their negatives. Like, some of them are really influenced by news. Some of them are really influenced just by straight technicals. Some of them are heavily correlated to the DXY. Some of them are not. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like all over the place, and that it like just finding what works for your strategy is like, I don't know, it's interesting to me. I guess I'm a nerd in that way, but it's really interesting, like just being able to test and see what works and what not. And especially now that Chuck and I have been doing a lot of like developing of these machine learning models, we've seen like what works on certain pairs and what doesn't. And like, or even in certain markets, because machine learning models what we found is that it's much more difficult to create machine learning models for currency pairs than for equities, which I would have thought is the other way around, because there's much more data. It's much more clean data in the currency market than it is in the equities market, right? But for whatever reason, machine learning models like learning better with equities and indices rather than currency pairs. So yeah, it's just really interesting just learning about all the discrepancies and shit like that. So
yeah, I wonder if that has anything. Do the programs you guys are working on, do they incorporate like the fundamentals into it, and do you think that's why it has?
So we're working on a few that have that take fundamentals into account, but for the longest time we didn't. It was strictly just open high low close.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you. I genuinely because logically you would think that the market with cleaner data and more data would be much better and much more conducive to machine learning models. But what we found in our testing is all of the models, like, we've created maybe not hundreds of models, but like tens of models, at least 20 to 50 different models between the two of us, right? And the ones that have been the most successful are the ones that are equity based or index based.
Real interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't fucking tell you why, but yeah. What else? How would you say? So I know you mentioned earlier about you do feel much happier, especially this last week with your trading and stuff like that. What would you say the path forward is for you? Is it just kind of continue the way that you've been going this last week? Have you seen anything this week that like it worked, but like maybe you want to tweak it a little bit? Is it like kind of what do you think the path forward is for you right now? Let's say for the next week, like what are you focusing on the next week? Is it the exact same thing, or are you gonna kind of take that and like build on it and yeah?
So the path forward for next week and for hopefully plenty of weeks after that. It's just doing the same thing. It's prioritizing my life over my trading, and it's like kind of like just figuring out who I am and who I want to be. And I'm like, I don't know, this fitness thing, like I've set some pretty lofty fitness goals for myself, and I'm just really excited for the journey of working on those goals. And then with trading, I'm just going to, I think the path forward for me is swing trading, where time is taken into consideration, but isn't necessarily like such a big factor, because I've used to really limit myself just very specific windows, like the kill zone windows. But understanding of how, like, especially like with AUD and USD, there's some times where the best trade is going to set up in the New York afternoon session with that 1 p.m. candle, 1 p.m. 4-hour candle. So it's like just getting into swing trading and working on having the ability to like set the trade and then like let it go, like not being consistently like looking at my phone or like looking at the charts or something, and just like really just focusing on just like living, and knowing that because of the amount of experience that I have, as long as I continue to focus on building the infrastructure in my trading, which is like my strategy, my rules, how I'm going to manage myself, like I know it's all just going to take care of itself, and just really just continue to take the pressure off of trying to perform, and instead of just performing. Like like if you're trying to do something, by definition, you're not doing it. So instead of trying to be a better trader or trying to be consistent, I'm just going to let that all go and just be consistent on and off the charts. And then just focus on that and take that day by day.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I've seen for me, and I'm pretty sure I said this last week as well, is like walking everything back to like its most extreme conclusion, right? So like, what happens if I lose a trade? I'm gonna lose a bit of money, okay? Is that the worst thing in the world? Like, is my account gonna blow up? No. Okay, so then I have the opportunity to come back again tomorrow. Cool. Like, am I gonna be severely financially impacted by me losing this trade? No. Okay, so then it's not that big. Like, my thing is kind of separating myself from the outcome as much as possible, and the way that I do that is by not caring about the outcome. But that, again, that's difficult. It's not because you want to win. Like, your trading is a very competitive thing, or I don't know if trading is competitive, but traders ourselves, like, we're very competitive. You know what I mean? We don't want to lose. We don't want to be wrong. You know what I mean? But the most successful traders separate themselves from the outcome of their trades. So like, it's kind of like a catch-22, because you care so much about winning, but the only way to consistently win is to not care whether or not you win. You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't make sense. But that's it is what it is. Them's the rules. Like, that's just, I don't make the rules. That's kind of just it is what it is. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah, and it's not easy. So like I told you last week that I every time I set a trade, I literally force myself to, I remove myself from the situation. And like, I found that for me personally, swing trading is harder to do that, because it's always like, it's, even when I leave, it's still on. The trade is still on. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it'll be there for multiple days. It's not just like, if I'm trading on the 1 minute, I'll be in a trade for, honestly, at most, like 4 hours. I can distract myself for 4 hours. You know what I mean? But I can't distract myself for like 3 days. You know what I mean? So it's for me, I've noticed that swing trading doesn't work as well with my mentality. But for you, how do you plan on combating that? Because I don't even have the answer for that, because I tried it with swing trading and I couldn't do it, because I thought I could do it because I wanted to be in the market less, and I kind of just wanted to be able to set a trade and forget about it, but I can't forget it. So that's just me personally. So that's what I found. So that's why I'm kind of back to trading on the 15 minute and the 1 minute.
Yeah. So I said it already, I'll say it again, I bloom where I'm planted, right? I really got into trading with the Bitcoin frenzy, right? As more of an investor. And then I moved into Falcon, which
So
is
that was
for
back in
funds.
17, the boom in 2017.
Yeah, dude. I bought my first Bitcoin for sub 10K, bro. But yeah, I
Damn.
don't have nothing now. Don't have nothing now. That's not the way to get into trading. But with Falcon, that the way I was taught was like on the H4, and then maybe getting down to the H1. And it was just like, I don't know, you just like took the trade and you just had to let it play out. Like there was like no other option. The only reason I went down to intraday tarps was because I got tired of losing. And like I was like, well, if I want to lose, I want to lose fast. Like I'm
Yeah.
tired of waiting a
Yeah.
day and then taking a loss. Like
Yeah.
I hated that. But as far as like how I'm doing it now, it's just like I'm just looking at the structures. Like I just have to let the structure play out. And as far as patience and everything, I've come up with a management strategy to where I cut partials, and then I'm just locking my stop, and then I have my alert set because you saw in my markup that of the trade that I took and the trade that I didn't take, I do a lot of forecasting.
Yeah.
So I think the forecasting really helps me with like, okay, like I gotta wait. Like that Euro trade that popped up after NFP that pretty much hit the like 5R within the 8-hour time frames. I didn't anticipate that kind of speed. I figured that would be like a weekend hold. But it's just like, I don't know, like I just focus on structure, and then I'm just gonna focus on like going for a walk, or like the trade I took where I went to sleep. You know what I mean? Like it's really easy to trade in your sleep. You can't mess anything up.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I know earlier we talked about how it's hard for you to trust yourself sometimes, but have you thought about how you're forecasting, like when you forecast something and you're right about it, does that not add confidence to yourself? Like because I would imagine that like that's just you're not winning a trade, but that's a little victory. You know what I mean? Because you're just like, I think price is going to go here, and then I would enter here, right? So if you're seeing the chart and then you're seeing price here and then you're expecting it to go there, and then you get an alert saying that it went there, you're just like, damn, I'm right. You know what I mean? That's a little victory. And then you're expecting price to come back down to where you want to enter, and like that's when it does that, that's another little victory. Like, do you think about it in that way?
I did initially. Like for the first few months that I was doing that, like yeah, it was pretty crazy, you know, and I was like, dude, like got this, you got this. But then after a while, I could do that, but it became negative because it was like, okay, you forecasted that move, but you didn't trade it. And so now I'm at a point where, like, to me, like, okay, yeah, for like the euro dollar forecast, I had a pound dollar forecast, I had a USD, like all these different forecasts. Like, yeah, it's cool to see it play out, but if I'm not trading it, it almost doesn't even matter to me because I already know that I have that skill. But I can't express to you enough how much of a personal lack in self-confidence it is. Like, I ordered a plane ticket to go see my mom, and I ordered the ticket backwards, right? So this was like 2 years ago. So now literally when I order plane tickets, I have somebody else check it because I just literally don't trust myself to not have ordered the tickets backward again. Like when I say like it's mentality, like the only thing is mental. Like it has nothing to do with my skills or my capabilities, and everything to do with how I perceive myself.
So do you use limit orders?
Like, yeah, limit orders. Yep.
Okay.
It's just easier.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to help because, like, for me personally, like if I see that little victory, like I forecast it, I'm just like, okay, I'm right. That's a little bit of validation, and then you're right again where it comes back to where your entry is. That's a little bit more validation. Like once it gets there, you should have no choice but to do it. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be an option where they're like, oh well, maybe I shouldn't trade it, because it should just be like, you know what, I've been right this entire time. Fuck it. You know what I, but like I don't know how to. That's tough.
So,
it's a tricky. It is a tricky situation.
Yeah, I'll give you the answer. I suffered from PTSD for 13 years. I've only been in recovery for a few months. You know what I mean? So I'm literally like the stuff that you're saying, like, yeah, it makes sense for somebody that
No,
didn't have,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, my mental game from my perspective of I went through something very severe, something that 1 in 3 women go through, right? And it really had a negative effect on me. So I'm rebuilding the person. I have the trader. The trader is fine. Like you would think that, like, okay, seeing this stuff play out would have a beneficial effect on you, but it doesn't when your mind is messed up.
yeah,
Put it that way. So like I appreciate you wanting to help, but at the end of the day, the only person that can help me through this kind of thing is me. Like
yeah.
yeah, like there's nothing to do except for me to just continue to follow through and rebuild my self confidence that I lost after that incident.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real. I get
Yeah.
that. I 100% get that. I don't know if your wife isn't a trader, right?
Nah, I tried it, man. She was so close, man. She was playing options. I was like, yeah, we about to be out here, boy. And then, not everybody built for it.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. Because what I was going to say is, like, I don't know if you ever tried this or even if she would be open to it. But would you, like, do you talk to her about your trades? Because I would say, like, maybe having a third party be like, hey, just take it. You know what I mean? Because if you have the difficulty with you taking it yourself or trusting yourself in your analysis to take it, like I wonder if having a third party saying, no, take it. You like the same way you said that you have a third party like check your plane tickets to make sure that that's right. Like you don't need to have somebody check your analysis to see if it's right because it probably is right. All you need is the external person or external party to be like, no, take the trade. You know what I mean? Do you think that would help at all, or is that something you've tried?
I do talk to her about my trading, and I'm very honest with her. Like I was like, dude, I messed up yesterday. I placed the trades and then I deleted them, and she was like, oh, you did that again. Like it doesn't feel good. As far as that in the moment of like, yeah, you should execute on your trade. I think instead of just having the third party there, I'm just gonna lean on like the words of Eric Thomas of like, when you have to hit that obstacle, think about your family. Like think about what it would mean to them if you like did not do this thing. Like if you forecast an opportunity and you don't take the opportunity, think about the impact that has on your family unit, on the people that you're trying to do this for. And I think I'm just because I only listened to that on yesterday, so I think I'm gonna take that moving forward and like when I have the trade idea and I mark out the stuff, like I'm just going to keep repeating that in my head. Like you have to take this opportunity. You're trying to do better for your family and really just shift some of the perspective so that it doesn't feel so, like I have to be right. It's more about, I have to try.
Yeah. Honestly, that's huge. I like that a lot. And I love Eric Thomas. I used to, when I was like in like middle school, I used to he had like that it's like a really famous speech about the one where he was talking about like when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, that's when you'll be successful. Like I used to, when I was in middle school, that used to be like my ringtone, not my alarm when I woke up. Like when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, that's when you'll be. I was waking up to that, you know what I mean? And I love that nigga. So yeah, that's a. I haven't heard that that one that you just mentioned, but I recommend anything by that nigga. So I think that's actually a good way to move forward because as I'm getting older, like you realize you'll do a lot more. Like you'll find a lot more within yourself when you're doing it for your family or for whatever, right? When it's above you and it's above just your own validation or your own goals or whatever it is, right? When it's above, when you put it above yourself, I've noticed that it's much easier to commit to something or to execute on something. So yeah, I think that's a very good way forward.
That, and also because my wife isn't normally up when I'm training, or if I take a train in the afternoon, she might be at work or something. Like, I can't count on her, so I gotta count on me.
Yeah, that's real. So yeah, I mean, we'd be going for about an hour. Is there anything you want to say before we close?
Yeah, the biggest lesson I've learned in 5 years of trading: sleep more, eat better, work out, and just let the rest take care of itself, man.
Honestly, yeah, that's real. That's real. But yeah, with that being said, thank y'all for listening to the podcast this long. And we'll catch y'all on the next one.
Peace.